This is Gail, the Legacy Lady, your friendly neighborhood storyteller. And this is episode 8 for the record. And we're going to be talking about celebrating family traditions and what they mean to us and why we do it and what do they look like for each of us, what do they look like for our families, and how we figure out where those came from and those sorts of things. So this is a interactive, whether you are watching live or on a replay somewhere. There's this thing going around where you can use hashtag replay to let me know that you're checking it out after I was live. And so that is the topic for today. Family traditions are something that many families have, and if you don't already have family traditions, maybe it's something that you've been trying to figure out how to establish, or maybe why it's important, or how to start a conversation with someone you love about how to start a tradition. So with all of that in mind, I'm going to have a few interactive questions to ask, and if you feel so inclined, feel free to share your answers in the comments. If not, write them at home, share them with a loved one, and I'd love to hear how it goes. So a little bit about what I'm doing this month. I am hosting a free live writing workshop, which I don't do very often, mostly because I have small children and I work and, life happens. So, but on August 30th, I will be doing a live writing workshop. It will be at 12 p.m. Eastern, and it'll be online. So while you totally can wear your pajamas, just please make sure you're at least wearing a shirt. So that would be helpful. You can call in on a telephone if you're not comfortable. There are lots of different ways you can interact on the call. So if you feel so inclined, I would love to have you. You can click the link in the description, and it'll also be one of the first comments in the video. So with that information, I just wanted to make sure that you knew about that. It's, again, totally free. You can bring a friend, invite grandma, invite your mom, and they don't have to be with you. They can be anywhere. There's international numbers. Like, we can totally get anyone in anywhere. I picked the middle of the day, hoping that it would hit most of the time zones where I have people who are interested in legacy. So if you have any questions about that, obviously you can put them in the comments. So let's dig in and dive into family traditions. Basic question, what are traditions? Like, what the heck are we talking about? So there's the standards. We have any traditions that are wrapped up in your faith, in your faith life, in your cultural traditions. There's cultural traditions, there's religious-based traditions, and then there's family traditions that vary from family to family. And everyone celebrates those things differently, depending on where you're from. There's regional traditions with cooking and with singing and dancing, like every way we express ourselves as humanity. Every culture has their own way of doing that, and for me, those are traditions too. I think what people usually think of when they think of traditions are Sunday night dinners, what they do at the holidays, what they do at Christmas, and those are all things we do to stay connected and stay engaged and have meaning, and it brings meaning to the things we're doing together. We also have something to look forward to. So we know that at every Christmas, a tradition in our family is that we always go to a friend's house Christmas Eve, and everyone knows that even if you haven't seen someone all year, we know that they're going to be at this friend's house on Christmas Eve. And then we have traditions on Christmas Day, and there's a New Year's tradition. Everyone has traditions, and those are just examples of some of the things my family does. So, what are a few of your traditions? I would love to hear about traditions that are centered around food, which is an easy one for everyone. Like you always make grandma's cookie recipe at the holidays, or you always do this at the holiday, or on this day or on this evening, you always do this thing. That's a tradition. So, what are a few of your traditions? What are a few of your family traditions? And have you, when you're moving from your parents' household, if you're moving into your own household, and then if you're creating a family or you have a family, what traditions have you started, integrated, changed, maybe modified a little? Because when we're starting with new families, or we're starting a new family, or we've married into a family, the traditions are different from the traditions we grew up with. And all of a sudden now we have to figure out how to navigate that. We have to figure out how to implement the new ones. Which ones do we want to change? This is an opportunity to make your own traditions. And what do those look like? So that's a really fun conversation to either have with yourself if you're creating your own traditions, or if you have a partner or a spouse and you're creating traditions with them. And then if children come, if that is something that's on the horizon, what traditions will you have with them? Because that forms their relationship with traditions and whether or not they continue things on. And it's just this really a wonderful legacy of what we can pass on to everyone. So that, again, the question of that was, what are a few of your traditions? And I gave a few examples. So why are traditions important to families and people in general? I kind of touched on this a little bit, but from what I've seen and what I've experienced is it gives us, I use the words connect and engagement. It gives us something to look forward to. We know what's going to happen. We know what to expect. And it makes us feel comfortable and safe, because we know that when we show up to something, if there are traditions involved with that event, everyone knows the layout. Everyone knows what their role is, what they're going to do, and we know that we're going to have a good feeling about it. And we know that we're going to feel good when we leave, which is, I think, really important for us from a human experience level. Being happy is pretty exciting. And there may also be sad traditions, and those are absolutely valuable and relevant too, and it still keeps that engagement. If you have traditions around a death in the family, if you have traditions around when someone gets sick in your family, what you do, those are all traditions that can be passed on as well. So getting into the writing part of it, writing about these traditions, I think most families will have an oral passing down, or an oral history of what these traditions are. And then when someone new comes into the family, there's this discovery period where in a year or like in a decade, you're finding out all of the traditions in the new family and in this new family you've come into, and figuring out where you fit in that tradition. What's your role in that tradition? And as a child, our children are doing that too. They're in this new family. They don't know what their roles are. They're trying to figure out where they fit. They're trying to figure out what they're supposed to do. And it's our job to give them direction and help them navigate these traditions we have. So from the writing of it, I always thought it would be really cool to have start having traditions written down. Now, whether or not people will actually do that, I don't know. However, how I would go about doing that, if you were to start writing them down, is asking going through and making a list of all the traditions you think you have. So the next Sunday night dinner you have, if that's a tradition for you, whoever's sitting around at the table with you, start the conversation around traditions and say, hey, I just want to write a little bit down about what we do and why we do it and where it came from. And for me, that's the most exciting part, is finding out from each person their perception of the tradition, their I'm losing my words, their ideas of where it originated, of why you do it, and then trying to find out exactly who it really came from and why was it started in the first place. And I feel like those stories could possibly be totally hilarious, or they're going to be really, really sad, or um, or it'll give you a better picture of what your family was like whenever that tradition was started. It might give you insight into why you are the way you are, and it will give you a sense of that belonging. Let's do with belonging. And I don't know. I think it would just be a really cool conversation to have. So, like I said, next time you do Sunday dinner, next time you are, gathered together, just start the conversation. You don't have to write anything down. You don't have to actually be formal about it. Just talking about it is fun, and it changes how we look at things when we actually start having those conversations about traditions. Hi, Monica. So, um, sorry. Oh, Sunday dinners. Yeah. So sit down and have the conversation. Find out from the generation above you where the tradition came from, why you do it, and really get their story, get their ideas. Hi. Yeah. It was good too. You'll have to go back and watch it. And let me know what you think. I asked a couple questions. I'll do a recap at the end. Yes, they are so, so huge. And how we view them and our perception of them, and how everyone works together to make them happen, or maybe doesn't work together to make them happen, as the case might be for some, which I think when we start talking about these traditions, if people maybe haven't figured out their roles yet, it might give them an opportunity in these conversations to say, hey, I really don't know what I'm supposed to do when these traditions happen. Can you help me? Give me a little guidance. So people who are coming into the family, that might give them a chance to say, I've been here for like a couple years and I don't really know why we do this. Can someone help me? And if you hadn't had the conversations about the traditions and asked the questions, they would never have been comfortable enough to ask that. And they would have spent the next 15 years showing up and not really getting it. And that might be perceived as someone who doesn't want to be there or doesn't really want to be a part of the family, where really they're just unsure and they just need a little bit of help and don't know how to ask. So yeah, like that's why I think it's important that we talk about it and that it's an open conversation, that it's not like a cloak and dagger thing. So Monica, if you have any things you want to throw in for traditions, what are a few of your family traditions and who do you celebrate them with? Those were questions to answer if you feel like doing that. I'm just looking through my list to make sure I covered everything. I pretty much did. So just for a recap, we talked about celebrating family traditions, and I asked, what are a few of your traditions? Who do you celebrate them with? And what do those specific traditions mean for your family? And I would even throw in a few extra questions for tonight for you to think about, or how do you feel before the tradition happens? So like, let's say it's Sunday night dinner or something specific that happens around a holiday. How do you feel about that before it happens? And then during, what do you feel? And then afterwards, how do you feel? And I love tracking those and seeing. I'm very much a statistics and analytics person, so I love seeing the patterns of how we're feeling about things and how that impacts each day, really, and how the day before impacts the next day. So that's just a part of my personality. I'm just going to read Monica's for a minute. She says, I celebrate Christmas Eve with my dad every year, me and about 8 siblings and our kids and grandkids. That sounds like an epic party. We used to do Sunday dinners and have talked about getting back to it. Hi, Colleen. Colleen's my mother-in-law, by the way. She's amazing. And let's see. Oh, wow, you're one of 10 kids? That's crazy. Yeah, you guys would have a roundabout conversation. about everything. I bet Christmas Eve was amazing. And you were up all night and Santa never got to come because you didn't go to sleep. So you'll have to watch the replay. I already did the recap. And just one more quick plug for the free live writing workshop. That will be on August 30th August 30th at 12 p.m. Eastern. It'll all be online. So just go check out the link in the description. And I would love to see you there. So until tomorrow, I bid you adieu and happy writing.